everybody. Welcome to Townsend 505. My name is Nick. Welcome to the channel if you are new, or welcome back if you're a lovely viewer. Me and Bryer from Bryer's Music Showcase, we will be reviewing Black Sabbath's 13th studio album with another brand new lead vocalist, The Eternal Idol.
All right.
You have anything you want to say before we begin?
Yep, as usual. But yeah, kind of picking up where we left off. And yeah, I talked about it in the last briefly in the last video, but of course they were touring the Seventh Star album with Glenn Hughes, but like I said in the last episode, he only lasted 5 shows due to his personal stuff with his cocaine addiction, and his voice was not really in the best shape. So they had to let him go. So, but they still had many other dates. So they had to go ahead and find a new singer, and they found a singer very last minute, and that singer's name was Ray Gillen. No relation to Ian Gillan, totally different Gillan. So he took over the rest of the tour, and Tony Iommi was pretty impressed. He was like, "Hey, you want to join?" And Ray was like, "Okay, sure, yeah, I'll join." And of course, they started putting songs together. A lot of the songs that would eventually make this album, and they recorded pretty much a good chunk of it, and it was almost done, but Ray didn't really stay long, mainly because he had a hard time with the lyrics. He wasn't much of a lyric writer, and also there was management stuff going on behind the scenes, and Ray was kind of looking towards a different band that he wanted to join. It was called Badlands, and they were kind of weren't very popular, but they made a little noise, but Ray kind of decided to just go out and just do his own thing, and so now Black Sabbath is once again without a singer. And they did many auditions for it, and Tony ended up choosing a pretty unknown singer at the time, very unknown. Of course, his name was Tony Martin. And so this is going to get annoying because now there's 2 Tonys in the band, so I gotta make sure I specify which Tony I'm talking about. But yep, Tony ended up getting the job, and so they had all the songs ready. So Tony just basically re-recorded what Ray had done, and so Tony Martin had pretty much had no involvement in the writing process. But he did it, and yep. And let me just see. They released the album, and it was in the year 1987 now, in November of that year. And this is kind of the real beginning of Black Sabbath's their most unpopular phase, because by this point they really weren't that big anymore. Sales just weren't as good as they once were. And this is also going to be where there's going to be a constant rotation of musicians coming and going. But other than that, and one more thing to add is that this is kind of the last album with their original label. For a long time, they've been with Vertigo and Warner Brothers, but after this album they would be dropped, and so they would need to get a new one later on, which we'll probably get a little bit into when we get to the next album. But this did chart. It charted 66 in the UK, so not too bad. But in the US, it got to number 168, so very low in terms of that. And yeah, but other than that, that's pretty much covers the majority of the history of it. And now let's briefly talk about the album cover. Kind of curious what your thought of it is.
Yeah, I won't be picking it for the album cover draft anytime soon. It's
Yes.
It's like with the albums with an album cover like Born Again, it's like it's bad enough that it's like good. It's like hilariously good, but like an album cover like this, I'm like, I do not like this at all.
Yeah, it's all right. There's actually a little bit of history with the album cover. So it comes down to the name of the album, because there's a statue called the Eternal Idol. And if you look it up, it actually looks like this. Only this is not the original statue, because apparently they couldn't get permission to use an image of the actual statue. So they had to get models to kind of pose in it. And in order to do that, of course, they had to paint both models in this bronze paint. And the thing about the paint is the paint was actually toxic, and so the second they got the shots that they needed, they had to immediately rush into the hospital. Luckily, no one died, but that was back when safety wasn't really a big concern back then. So there's that. But other than that, that's a little history and why they chose that cover and the title.
Fair enough. I don't like the album cover at all, but now that you gave me that info, I will say it's a little
Yeah,
more interesting
yeah,
now.
it's not one of the most standout covers.
Yeah, like I will say I won't get any uh, love for saying this, but I find Paranoid to be a pretty overrated album cover.
Oh yeah, I'm the same way. I never thought that was great. I think we
Um,
talked about that before in the Paranoid video as well.
yeah, I don't know if because yeah, like we I won't remember talking about their album covers a whole lot, but yeah. Um, well, let's get into the actual album though. No correlation with the movie, but we're talking about The Shining. What do you
Yes.
think about The Shining?
So this was the first song I ever heard from this era of them, and this is the first song I heard Tony Martin for the first time. And I think this is a pretty good introduction into him as a singer. Thing about Tony Martin, the way I think of it when it comes to his vocals, it sounds like a great blend of Ronnie James Dio and Glenn Hughes, where I think Tony has that kind of raspy, gritty sound that Dio had, but he can reach pretty high notes like Glenn could. So you kind of get a little good blend of both, which is great because with that voice, Tony was able to kind of sing not just the songs needed for this album, but of course he can sing a lot of the back catalog as well. Like he can even sing a lot of the Dio stuff. Very, very good, very fine. Um, so again, really enjoy Tony's voice. I think he's definitely one of the definitely the most underrated singer of Black Sabbath's history. But the song itself, again, I really enjoy kind of the intro of it with the guitar. It has a very dirty sound to it, which I like. And then you get into the main riff, which is great. Um, again, it definitely has more of that mid '80s production to it. But again, I think it sounds good. It doesn't bother me one bit. Um, again, I already mentioned his Iommi's guitar work, but it's fantastic, and I love the bridge section where it slows down. It's all moody, and yeah, overall, it's a pretty good opening track. And I'll throw in one more little tidbit, but there actually is a music video to this song, and again, they're not. You can tell they're not meant for music videos. But what's
Oh yeah, I
funny is
agree.
that yeah. But if you watch, I don't know if you've seen the music video
I did.
for
It's
this.
not the best.
Yeah, and that kind of plays another reason. Tony Martin is not the traditional looking rock star at that time because I think he was. You can tell he was kind of losing his hair by that point.
Hmm.
But another little funny note was that if you notice the guy playing bass in the video, that was not actually a member of the band because I think the real bass player couldn't make it, and so they literally just went outside and picked up some random guy. And they're like, "Hey, you want to be in a Black Sabbath video?" And the guy was like, "Okay, sure." And so they just kind of brought him in and have him hold the bass and just pretend to play. And so once you know that and you watch the video now, just look out for that bass player because you can tell, yeah, he doesn't really know what he's doing.
That's funny. That's hilarious. I think this song is awesome. It made my top five.
Mm-hmm.
It's another. I feel like right now they're 13 for 13 for their album openers. I don't know if you agree with me or not. Um,
I think it's good. Even like the weaker stuff, like even Never Say Die, I would say has a pretty good opening track.
oh yeah, Never Say Die, the title track. I love that song.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, that been the Birds. I feel like the last three discographies we've been going through. I feel like we're covering some great album openers. But yeah, I love this song. Uh, Next song on the album, Ancient Warrior.
Okay, really good keyboard intro by Jeff Nichols, who is still in this band, by the way. I probably should also mention that you also have Eric Singer, who played on Seventh Star. He's back to play drums here. Then you have Bob Daisley on bass. But besides that, yeah, Jeff Nichols has a nice keyboard intro to this one, and another really good heavy riff. This just has a really good groove to it. Like, definitely a perfect groove to just bang your head to. I really dig the chorus to it. I think the chorus is definitely a nice highlight here. Um, and again, the guitar solo, again, still at this point, Tony's still showing he still has the chops. But yeah, again, this was another highlight for me. This one did make my top 5, and yeah, this is a really good song.
It's also made my top 5. The song is awesome. I love this song. I'm like, how is this band able to make so many great albums with so many different singers? Like,
Mm.
I don't know, like with the Birds, like we had our core members. We had some really good members, but like I don't know. I know we had like Skid Batten and all that. Like,
Right.
like the Birds had some weak singers, but every Black Sabbath singer we've had were all awesome.
Mm-hmm.
This is the last like time we're gonna have a different lead singer. I know we're gonna change it a few more times, but this is the last like change. Like,
Yeah, this is like the last like new singer. Whenever we
mm-hmm.
get a new singer, it'll be a singer we've already had before.
Uh-huh. I'm kind of curious at like after we were done with the series, I'm kind of curious as to what your ranking of all the singers are because you're gonna be
Yeah,
surprised.
and
Sorry.
yeah, that's an interesting question because yeah, that's gonna be tough actually because I think about each singer is that there's something about them that makes them distinct, and so
Mm-hmm.
each one has something that I like. So yeah, it's gonna be tough to rank them.
Oh yeah, I agree. But yeah, this is another great song. Made my top 5 as well. I really enjoy this. Hard Life to Love. What do you think of that song?
Right. Okay. This is another highlight for me. This is another one I really enjoyed. This one has a much more faster pace to it. The guitar riff has this very frantic, very almost again very heavy sound to it, which I dig. Again, the drums by Eric Singer on here, really big sound to it, which I enjoy. I'm a sucker for that. And once again, Tony Martin, just really doing a great job on the vocal department. Um, and I didn't mention it before, but you can actually listen to what these songs would have sounded like with Ray Gillen. Actually, this CD copy I have actually has the disc 1 has the original album, and then disc 2 has all the Ray Gillen sessions. So if you're curious, if you want to hear what this album could have sounded like with Ray Gillen, you can check it out. But personally, I think I would have preferred. I think I prefer Tony Martin. I think Tony fits these songs a lot better. I think with Ray, I think Ray definitely has a great voice, but he has more of that. I think I would say Ray Ray has a more Glenn Hughes quality to him. He's definitely more leaning on the Glenn Hughes sound. Um, but I think, but again, like Tony Martin just has a grit to it, which kind of gives them a bit more oomph, I think. So yeah, but overall, really good song. Oh, you're muted.
It feels like almost every video I'm muted. Uh, Whoopsie me. You would think by episode 13 I would get that figured out. It's another great song. This made my top 5. Um, I have to say side 1 is my favorite side of the album. Side
I
2 is really
agree.
good too, but side 1, man, oh man, it's just like every song on this first side is absolutely fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Another, I feel like this whole album is underrated. I don't think there's a hit on this album. I feel like all these songs are
Oh yeah.
underrated.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm just gonna give the hint out that all 4 songs on side 1 made my top 5.
And you want to know something?
But
I have the same thing.
yeah, all 4 the 4 songs of the first side. I'm like, hard to beat these, but
Mm-hmm.
man, this is so good. So I'm glad you agree with me on that. It's a great song. Side 1 closes out with Glory Ride.
Yeah, another really good song here. Again, the riff on here is fantastic, and the keyboards are kind of underneath, kind of adding more texture to it, which I like. Um, Again, I think Tony Martin just really killing it on the chorus. Like the chorus to this song is really great, very very memorable to me. And again, the song plays around with dynamics a little bit as well. Like that's something Black Sabbath's always been does pretty well is when they change it up. And the drums get a little creative here by Eric. Some good stuff here, and a nice little outro with the acoustic guitar, again changing it up. Yeah, another highlight for me.
I agree. I already mentioned that all four of these songs are in my top five, so I agree. This is another great song. Tony Martin, man, he is underrated. These five albums, like just by listening to this album, I feel like this is gonna be a good ride for me.
Hmm.
I feel like I'm really gonna enjoy these five albums he made with them. I wouldn't. I wouldn't say like, oh, this is the true Black Sabbath. Like, I'm not gonna be like an elitist like
Mm-hmm.
that. Like,
Yeah.
to me, every Black Sabbath member, lead singer, is a true Black Sabbath member because you know they were in Black Sabbath. But yeah, this is amazing. Um, Flip over the record. Like to use that line a lot. Get to "Born to Lose." What do you think of that song?
Hey, Born to Lose. All right, so now we're back to more fast pace, which I do like. Um, Again, guitar works very nice. I don't have much to say about it honestly, because it's kind of a more standard heavy metal song, which again, not a bad thing. Um, but there's not a whole lot that kind of differentiates it from the others. It's kind of plays it. This kind of has that same sort of rhythm and cadence throughout the whole song. Not much dynamics here, but it's short and sweet. Doesn't stay overstay its welcome for too long. It's still a very good song. It does kind of rank on the lower end of the ranking for this album, but again, it's not a bad song by no stretch. It's very solid.
Yeah, I really enjoy this song. This didn't make my top five.
Mm-hmm.
It missed the top five, but I agree. This is a nice up tempo song. I think this is a really good song. So I don't think there's any bad song on this album.
No, not
This
really.
is a really good album. Next song on the album, "Nightmare."
Okay, Nightmare. What's funny is that this song was originally supposed to be in the third Nightmare on Elm Street film, but I guess they decided not to use it. But
Oh
it might,
man,
yeah, would
that
have been, but
sucks.
yeah, but they still have the song, so might as well still release it. And you can when you hear it, once you know that fact and you hear it, like it makes sense because it has that eerie '80s keyboard intro. Sounds like something you'd see in a type of movie like that. And even the lyrics, I think, talk about like, I mean, the song's called Nightmare, so there you go. But again, this is another really good song. Let me see, where did I have it before? Where did I have it in my ranking? Okay, it just barely missed the top five. It was very close. There would be an honorable mention, but still a good song. It has a nice, good groove here as well, and the riff is very cool. Again, kind of going back to a little bit of their more doom sound, like almost like in their early period, but again, kind of more '80s sounding, which I dig. Um, but it starts to pick up towards the second. The second half really starts to speed up a bit, and definitely brings it up a little bit. So yeah, it's a great song. Again, just barely missed my top five.
I love this song. This made my top five.
Mm,
I love the eeriness of it.
mm-hmm.
Um, I feel like I would love to hear Tony Martin cover like Sabbath Bloody Sabbath or Volume
Mm,
4 would be cool albums to hear him cover. But yeah, I love this song. I'm not gonna spoil where it is, but this is definitely a highlight for me.
mm-hmm.
Next track on the album, we got an instrumental, Scarlet Pimpernel. Pimpernel.
Yeah, yeah. I have no idea what the title means, but yeah, it's a short instrumental. Um, Again, not much to say about it. It's just it's very pretty. It's a very pretty instrumental. It got some nice acoustic guitars with some keyboards underneath it. Yeah, not much to say. It does kind of fall in last place by default. But again, it's definitely one of their better instrumentals. Like it's definitely not an FX or anything like that.
Oh yeah,
Um, yeah, but it's nice. I like it. So, but again, it's kind of gonna ring at the bottom.
I agree. It's at the bottom, but nice instrumental. You said what was had to be said. It's a good instrumental. Next song on the album, "Lost Forever."
All right, now this one did make the top five. So for me at least, again, this is another one of those fast-paced songs, but again, I think the band really kick it up a bit here. Again, very nice heavy riff. The drumming, very great. Awesome solo by Tony Iommi on this track as well. One of my favorites on the album. And the thing that really pushed this song into my top five is again Tony Martin. I think, yeah, he's like all over this song. Like you're really getting a good sense of his range. He can do a good mid tempo track, but then he can just bring it up and almost scream territory. Again, very diverse singer he is. So yeah, this is another fantastic song to me.
Yeah, I like this song a lot. This didn't make my top five. It's if technically towards the bottom, technically, because you have this would rank number 7 on the ranking, which isn't low, but like it's only 9 songs, so. But I really enjoy the
Hmm.
song still. I get why it's in your top 5 though. It's really good. Um, Last song on the album is the title track.
Okay, and we close out with the longest song on the album. This one definitely has a more ominous feel to it. Very much a doom metal track, and I can definitely hear it. Almost sounds like the song Black Sabbath from their debut. It has that similar feel to it. The guitar work very heavy, and again Tony Martin doing a good job, kind of setting the stage, setting the tone for this one. It uses high register quite a bit on here, and the drumming has some moments here as well. Um, it's a it's a solid closing track. It's not one of my favorites because I do think it does start to drag a little bit, not too much. Like for me, I hear the song just when I'm about to feel like it could end now. That's when it starts to fade out. Like it just barely. That's like is at the borderline of going a bit too long, but still, it's a very solid closing song. I enjoyed it.
This is a pretty good song. It's out of the regular songs, I'd say this is my least favorite of all the
Hmm.
8 regular songs, but
Yeah, it's kind of second to least for me in terms of uh the regular songs.
mhm. But this is pretty good. I don't have a whole lot to say about it. You basically you said it. You summed it up pretty well. It's good. It's not one of their best songs, but it's good. What is your top 5?
Okay, top five. I have number 5, Lost Forever, and number 4, Glory Ride. Number 3, Ancient Warrior. Number 2, The Shining, and number 1, Hard Life to Love.
That's a good top 5.
Hmm.
And yeah, you already mentioned your dishonorable mention.
Yeah,
Um, my top 5. My number 5, Glory Ride. Number 4, The Shining. Number 3, Ancient Warrior. Number 2, Hard Life to Love. My favorite song on the album, Nightmare.
nice. All right, good
Um,
choice.
as for my dishonorable mention, it is also that track, but it's not really that much of a dishonorable mention. It's more of my least favorite.
Hmm.
What are you gonna rate this album from 1 through 10?
All right. So, I've said a lot of good things about this album, and I do think it's a very solid album. But I'm gonna give it. It's not quite an 8 out of 10, so I'm gonna give it a 7.75. The reason being is that even though, yeah, I've said a lot of good things about it, at the end of the day, it's definitely in terms of the whole thing. It's definitely nothing that's like in your face, like, oh my god, this is amazing. This is the best thing I ever heard in my life. It's more on the lines of your typical like mid '80s metal. Um, and so again, not a whole lot, not a whole lot to go, not a lot of experimentation. But it's still a very solid way to introduce Tony Martin. This is a very no, it's a safe album, but I think that's what Black Sabbath needed at that time. They needed something to kind of get back into form because with Seven Star again, that was supposed to be a solo album for Tony Iommi, but it got just turned into a Black Sabbath album. So they didn't really have that Black Sabbath sound, but here it's kind of a new beginning, just a reset. And so by the time we get to the next album, Tony Martin's more acquainted in the band, and so now they can start really playing around with what they can do. So it's a 7.75, so it does rank on the lower end of what would be my ranking, but still, I still think it's a very strong album.
And here's where the surprises come for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm giving this a 10 out of 10.
All right.
I love everything on this album. I get where you're coming from, though. I was not expecting that much grade. I was expecting to give this an 8 out of 10 when I was looking at the album cover, and I was like, we got another different singer, and it's not really a well-liked singer, but yeah, to me, this ranks high on my list. It isn't in my top 3, but it's up there. But yeah, this is a really, really good album. I find it to be one of their more underrated albums, but
awesome.
Yeah, I love this album. You have anything you want to say before we close out stream?
Well, if you enjoyed this album, then I'm definitely looking forward to getting to the next one. That's Headless Cross. Based on what I've heard from the Tony Martin era, it's by far my favorite. And there's a lot of reasons why, which I'm very excited to talk about when we get to that one.
Okay, I'm excited now. As after listening to this first album, my expectations are pretty high now after listening to this album. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to love that album too now. Thank you guys for watching this video. This is a great video to make. Thank you for joining me, Bryer.
As always.
Always great to do these Saturday streams.
Likewise.
Next album we're doing, Headless Cross, like you mentioned. That's gonna be a fun one to make, probably. But thank you guys for watching this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. So long.